Hello and welcome to Run Testers. My name's Nick. In this video we're going to be comparing the Brooks Ghost Max and the Asics Gel-Nimbus 25. So the Ghost Max and the Gel-Nimbus 25 are both max-stacked, cushioned running shoes designed mainly to be used for kind of easy runs, daily training, that kind of thing. They are both fairly new styles of shoes for their brands. Like the Ghost Max is Brooks' first properly max cushion shoe and obviously builds on the name of the Ghost, which is a daily trainer with more typical level of cushioning. And then whereas the Gel-Nimbus 25 is a big change from the Gel-Nimbus 24 in terms of the increased stack height you have here. So the Ghost Max is the cheaper shoe, comes in at £140 or $150. The Gel-Nimbus is £175 or $160. Ghost Max weighs in at 304 grams or 10.7 ounces in my UK size 9, whereas the Gel-Nimbus is slightly heavier in the same size. It's 315 grams or 11.1 ounces. Ghost Max has a 6mm drop and it's 8mm in the Gel-Nimbus 25, which has the highest stack height. It is 41.5mm at the heel, 33.5 at the forefoot, whereas the Ghost Max is 39 at the heel and 33 at the forefoot. With the Ghost Max, you've got a large stack of DNA Loft V2 cushioning. You've got the glide roll rocker there to create a smooth transition from heel to toe. You've got a broad base, sidewalls of foam, and a really substantial heel counter to make sure the shoe is stable despite the high stack of foam there. You've got an engineered mesh upper with a lot of padding around the tongue and collar for a really nice step-in feel, which is very comfortable. And then you've got decent outsole coverage. Almost the entire outsole is covered there. The key impact areas with a groove running down the middle, which again is meant to help keep your foot in a neutral position when running in the shoe. With the Gel-Nimbus, you've got a FF Blast Plus midsole with a little bit of pure gel under the heel, which is a new form of gel from Asics that's meant to be a bit more soft and comfortable. In general, the whole shoe is designed to be softer and more comfortable than previous versions of the Gel-Nimbus. You've got a soft and stretchy knit upper, again with plenty of padding, especially at the back of the shoe there. The tongue is not quite as padded as you get on the Brooks though. Again, little sidewalls of foam, heel counter, broad base, all things that make sure that the shoe is still pretty stable despite the really high stack of foam you have here. You've got an AHA rubber outsole with a lot of exposed foam in the middle there, but the key impact areas are covered at the front and back of the shoe and have not seen any undue signs of wear and tear yet with it.
So on fit, I tested both shoes in my regular running shoe size and both fit true to size for me. The Nimbus wraps the foot a bit more closely overall. It's a little bit more compact in the toe box, in length and in volume. And overall, I preferred the Ghost Max fit, but I would recommend going true to size in both these shoes.
So in terms of fit, I've had both of these shoes in a UK size 8, and I'd say in general the fit has been very good on both of these. I would say the Brooks Ghost Max is a little bit more narrow in comparison to the Gel-Nimbus 25. I think particularly that applies to when you get a bit further back into the Gel-Nimbus 25 and it kind of opens up a little bit more, particularly at the midfoot, I would say. But ultimately, you know, in terms of space up front in the toes, very similar, you know, nothing too cramped in terms of my experience. You get a good amount of padding in both of these shoes, that kind of heel collar as well too. There's difference in the tongue, so you're getting a more traditional, I would say, padded tongue on the Ghost Max compared to this kind of thinner, stretchier one on the Asics Gel-Nimbus 25. But yeah, for me, in my UK size 8, I found the fit generally good on both these shoes. The main thing for me, I would say, is that this shoe, the Brooks Ghost Max, is definitely the more narrow of the two shoes. So if you're looking for something a little bit more accommodating, a little bit more roomy, particularly at the midfoot, I would say go for the Gel-Nimbus 25.
So the fit for me in these two shoes, I'm size 8 in the UK, these are both size 8s, and I would definitely stick to my size in these shoes. Both of them are very comfortable to wear. Both have plenty of space in the forefoot and wiggle room. I've never had any issues in terms of fit in both of these shoes. I would say that the Brooks Ghost Max probably has slightly less space in between the toe and the end of the shoe for me, but it's not been an issue. I've not noticed at all. I've done about 50k in this shoe so far and it's been absolutely fine. Both are very plush shoes, very comfortable. Yeah, stick to my size in both of these.
So I've got no concerns with the fit of either of these two shoes. I've got a UK 9 in both of them, which is my normal UK size. With Brooks and Asics, that translates to a US 10, which again is pretty much my usual size in the US. And I've got a nice amount of room at the front of the shoe, good hold around the heel and midfoot. Yeah, no concerns at all with the fit for me.
Okay, so the run test in both of these shoes. So this is an interesting one to do because both of these shoes are completely new versions of an existing shoe. So the Brooks Ghost Max is obviously the max version of the Ghost range, and the Asics Gel-Nimbus 25 is the new version of the Asics Gel-Nimbus range. The Asics Gel-Nimbus 25 almost feels like a completely different shoe to the original Gel-Nimbus 24. It just feels a little bit softer to me. It feels like there's a lot more to it. It's got a lovely cruising feel to it. It's very comfortable. Really like this shoe. It is a reason why so many people are wearing this shoe at the moment. It was surprising because I've never really been a big fan of the Gel-Nimbus range, and now this is one of my favourite cushion shoes at the moment. The Brooks Ghost Max is obviously the Max version of the Ghost, and it doesn't really do a lot in comparison to the Ghost. I think adding more midsole foam into this shoe has really not had a massive impact on the ride of the shoe and how it feels. It definitely doesn't feel significantly softer. Definitely doesn't feel like it does a lot. In fact, I feel that it's probably about as hard as the Ghost 15 midsole foam, but it feels a bit more rigid to me. And it does have a rocker in it, which makes it a little bit better for cruising, but it definitely doesn't feel like what you'd expect from a Max cushion shoe. So if you're looking for a Max cushion shoe, I imagine most people are looking for the same sort of feel that you're getting from the Gel-Nimbus 25, which is a softer feeling, a more comfortable feeling that really sort of moves you along, feels very nice when you're landing into it. That's what I look for when I'm looking for a cushion shoe. Brooks Ghost Max, you don't get that. It just feels a lot harder. There's not a lot to it. It's a very, I'd say, dull midsole foam. It's the same midsole foam that you get in the Ghost 15, which I've never enjoyed. It just doesn't feel like it does a lot. And with the Ghost Max, it's pretty much the same thing. I don't really get a lot from this shoe. I do like the Ghost Max more than the Ghost 15. I just feel like there's a bit more to this shoe. It just feels like that rocker action is a bit smoother. You can sort of move along at pace a little bit more comfortably. But ultimately, it's not a massive difference from the Ghost design, which is probably fine if you're a big fan of the Ghost range and you want something with a tiny bit more cushioning in. But for me, I definitely say that the Gel-Nimbus 25 is much more enjoyable ride, much softer, and just a great shoe all round. Still no slouch as well. You can still pick up the pace a little bit in this shoe. I would say the Ghost Max, because it feels a bit more rigid and a bit firmer and it has a bit of that rocker in it, it's probably a tiny bit more versatile. I did fartleks in this yesterday of about 45-second reps at my 5k pace, which is about 3 minute 50 kilometers, and it felt all right at those. I didn't really mind it. It didn't feel too bad. I mean, it's only 45 seconds. It's not like a major speed test, but it did feel like it had a little bit more in the shoe than I would expect from a Max cushion shoe. So it's probably got that going for it.
So in my run tests, I've done north of 50 miles in the Gel-Nimbus. I've done around 20 miles in the Ghost Max. Both those are a mix of paces, some good duration runs in both, and a combination of road and light off-road river paths. I've also done a side-by-side mile, and here is what I found. So I'm doing my side-by-side mile. I've got the Nimbus on the left foot, I've got the Ghost Max on the right foot. And the first thing to say here is how similar these shoes are. A lot of similarities. There's pretty much a match on overall step-in comfort, on heel hold. There's similar volume of foam underfoot. They feel similarly weighted, but what you really notice when you're doing it side by side like this is just that the Ghost Max is more immediate. It returns quicker, it's firmer underfoot. The Nimbus sinks a lot more and takes a lot more time to return. It makes the Nimbus much softer. So if you're looking for that really soft, sinky, cushion protective ride for long, slow, easy recovery miles, I guess that's where you will have the benefit from the Nimbus. But if you want something that's going to be able to pick up the pace a little more, go a little bit faster at times, and you want a quicker return, a bit more responsiveness, right now the way I'm feeling it is the Ghost Max is giving much more back. I feel it's relying a lot more on the rockering and that slightly firmer, slightly more responsive foam to do the job. Otherwise these shoes feel markedly similar in terms of the overall feel on the foot. Basically what's happened here is Brooks have made a Nimbus, but they've made it better in my opinion. I'm someone who prefers a bit of a firmer shoe, so I'm probably going to say that because of that slight extra firmness or a slight stiffness in the foam, the return's a bit quicker. You're going to be able to move at faster paces in this. There's much more fast upper pace versatility. You're not going to want to use it for your all-out fast runs. It's not really designed for that, but it can do a job at faster effort. So I think anywhere up to the marathon pace is fine. If you're going to go faster than that, you'll probably want a different shoe, but that's also the case with the Nimbus 25. But the Nimbus 25, I don't think copes so much even at that kind of marathon pace or just below it. It's just a little bit squishy, a bit soft. It takes a little bit of time to bite back. You just don't get that return as quickly. I find you're waiting for it to bite and give you something back. So just to add to that side-by-side test, I wasn't the Nimbus's biggest fan when we first tested it. Personally found it a bit soggy, and it confirmed my feelings that I don't tend to enjoy the really big Max cushion softer rides. Now the Ghost Max has made me reassess that somewhat. It's maybe not the Max Stack that I don't get on with, or the weight overall on the shoe, but if you can add a touch more response, that shoe can fit my running style needs much better, and that's where I think the Ghost Max makes a big difference.
So I've done a lot of running in both of these shoes, and I have to say I've ended up really liking both of them. I almost came into them with different expectations. Like the Gel-Nimbus came out with a massive amount of hype, like the most comfortable shoe ever, and actually I was a little bit disappointed by it at first because it just felt like a pretty standard cushioned shoe, but actually really started to like it after a while, just because it's got a really nice balance of softness and cushioning, but it's still stable, still has enough resilience underfoot to bounce back and not get too squishy or kind of muddy if you're running in it for long periods. It's held up well to lots of running. It's probably one of my favourite long, easy run shoes that has come out this year, and I've used it for several Sunday long runs and just really enjoyed it for that kind of thing. It ticks over really nicely. It is a big shoe, but it's got a fairly smooth ride. There's a little bit of a rocker going on. The foam is soft but not squishy. And everything, it's just a really nicely balanced shoe, and given the big height of it, it actually feels a little bit lighter and quite natural on the foot, I found. So I really did enjoy using it, despite that slightly unsure start because of the barrage of hype that had been around it. With the Ghost Max, it was kind of the opposite. I looked and I thought, well, they've just put a load more DNA Loft V2 foam there, which I didn't find particularly good on the Brooks Ghost 15, and so I came in kind of with low expectations, but actually immediately exceeded them because it's got a really well designed rocker, the Ghost Max. I say that the foam is not the most exciting in the world, but the rocker works really well, and no matter if I'm running at easy pace or slightly steadier paces, I found it very easy to get into a nice rhythm with the shoe. And again, it feels a lot lighter on the foot than the weight and the size of it would suggest because of that really well designed rocker. And again, really liked using it for long runs, cruising along at a good pace, but never pushing too hard. Did do a couple of slightly faster runs in it, and it's not great for that, but you can do it. Actually, with both of these shoes, they're not very versatile, I'd say, but if you are someone with a running shoe rotation, you'd definitely have faster shoes in it. But if you're using them as an all-rounder or as a cushion daily trainer, they can up the pace a little bit because they do have a nice smooth ride. And actually, when I wore both at the same time for a little pootle around my local neighbourhood, I was surprised actually by how similar they did feel. Like, I do think you get a better foam in the Asics. It does feel slightly softer underfoot. It's got a slightly smoother transition for me. You get a little bit more sink in and a little bit more back from it, but it is quite marginal. Like the Ghost does feel really good when you are moving at those slow paces. I think if you're looking at versatility, and though I say neither is especially versatile, if you did want one of these to use for lots of different kinds of runs, I think the FF Blast Plus foam does give you a bit more back when you start running a bit faster. You can put a bit more into that foam. It gives you a little bit more back in terms of bounce back, but Ghost Max is kind of similarly good for those kind of runs, and I would personally keep both of them just for easy runs, of which they do a really good job. So yeah, no big differences on the ride. I do prefer the ride of the Gel-Nimbus. I think it is a little bit better, but the Ghost Max ride I think is quite close. And one area I think the Ghost Max is a little bit ahead is the outsole for sure. Like I use the shoe on autumnal pavements here in the UK, lots of wet pavements covered in leaves that always look a bit kind of dicey as you're running up to them, and it's gripped really, really well. The Gel-Nimbus actually had a little bit of problem with grip in the first couple of runs in it. It's been okay since. This rubber outsole seems to have roughed up a bit and now has a bit more traction, but I do think the Brooks has slightly better grip, but the Asics I think has a slightly more interesting and enjoyable ride. When it comes to stability, obviously a big factor of these shoes, both of them have taken big measures to be quite stable despite being neutral shoes. I think probably the Brooks slightly edges it in terms of stability, but I had no concerns about it at all with the Gel-Nimbus. It's a big shoe, but it's a broad base. The foam isn't too squishy, so you do have quite a reliable and stable feeling landing in it, I found, even when running on things like cambered pavements or slightly uneven ground. So yeah, obviously if you need a stability shoe, neither of them are it, but I do think they both are pretty stable, just for their size in particular.
So in terms of that run test, I have spent more time in the Asics Gel-Nimbus 25 simply because I've had it longer. I have spent more time in it post us reviewing it on the channel, and it's a shoe that I really like. The Brooks Ghost Max and these two shoes and what they're, where they kind of excel, I think they work for the same types of runs, and that's what I felt in my time with them. I would say that maybe you've got a little bit more scope to go a little bit quicker in the Brooks Ghost Max. Now, what I put that down to, the Asics Gel-Nimbus 25 is built for comfort, and whether that's the upper, this really plush upper, the really soft feeling foam you're getting in the midsole here, it's really about sinking into that and really giving that comfort from all directions. Now, it's a very stable shoe, it's very comfortable, and it's, the transitions are pretty smooth in it. I just don't think you get a massively enjoyable, lively rocker ride in it, whereas I do think you're getting more of it's not massively exciting, but it is definitely a more noticeable rocker that you're getting in the Brooks Ghost Max in comparison to the Gel-Nimbus 25. Now, the midsole foam here, the DNA Loft V2, is definitely not as soft as or as plush as what you're getting in the Gel-Nimbus 25, but there's enough there. I think it's a good mix of firm and being slightly soft to give you something that is definitely comfortable, definitely going to give you protection over longer runs as well. And as I said, I think if you wanted to slightly pick the pace up in the Brooks Ghost Max, you could definitely do a better job of it here than you would do in the Asics Gel-Nimbus 25. When you kind of dig into things like the outsole, I mean, the outsoles are very good on these shoes. I definitely say you're getting more rubber on the Brooks Ghost Max, and from that point of view, I think you're getting something that's better built for running, regularly, big, long, runs in this shoe, and it's going to hold up pretty well. And that's kind of what I found so far in my running. I think you're not getting so much of the rubber here on the Asics Gel-Nimbus 25s outsole. It is kind of concentrating on those key areas you would like to see, but it's definitely a little bit more going on in terms of that rubber and the amount of protection you're getting on the outsole on the Brooks Ghost Max. So it's something you care about, and I think from a grip point of view, I think you're getting something a little bit better, built on the Brooks Ghost Max as well too. And it's definitely just got a lot more going on in terms of that outsole. So yeah, for me, I would say the Brooks Ghost Max is the tad more versatile option of the two shoes, whereas the Asics Gel-Nimbus 25 is definitely built for comfort and those slow, long, easy runs where you don't necessarily want to pick the pace up. But I don't think you're getting as memorable ride or as energetic a ride as you're getting on the Brooks Ghost Max.
So, verdict. It's quite a tough one here because I do think these shoes have a lot in common, and I do think they do a similarly good job of the kind of runs I would use them for, which is those easy runs, those long runs. Overall, I do prefer the feeling of the Gel-Nimbus. I think it has a nicer ride. The foam underneath is just that little bit better, and in terms of both the softness, the bounce back, the way it feels at the end of a long run, everything about it is just a little bit better, but it is a little bit, and on RRP in the UK in particular, there's a big difference in price here, and I wouldn't be paying a lot more for the Gel-Nimbus compared to the Ghost Max myself. I think they do quite similar jobs. Get that slightly better outsole on the Brooks as well, which will be a factor if you're heading into the UK winter or winter anywhere where there's loads of wet pavements. So there's a factor so it probably would come down to price for me quite a lot. If I was looking at one of these big Max Cushion shoes, and I don't tend to use these kind of shoes a lot myself when I'm not testing them, I probably have a lower cushion shoe even for my easy runs, but if I wanted a Max Cushion shoe for easy runs or for everything, I think these are two very strong candidates. And if the Brooks was coming in a lot cheaper than their Gel-Nimbus when you looked at the time, I would have no hesitation in going for the Brooks myself. If the Asics is in a sale for the same price, and right now on Black Friday I think it's down to $120, then yeah, I'd get the Gel-Nimbus. If it's the same price or very close in price, I think it's a slightly better shoe, a more enjoyable shoe for you to use for the same kind of runs. But I certainly wouldn't say the Brooks is a substantially worse shoe. I really enjoyed using it as well for the same kind of stuff.
So my verdict on whether you should go for the Asics Gel-Nimbus 25 or the Brooks Ghost Max. Now the way I look at it is, if you are looking for a shoe that really prioritises comfort and being a shoe that you can use for your slow, long, easy runs, that's where the Asics Gel-Nimbus 25 really thrives. It's luxurious, it's comfortable, it's soft, everything you want from upper to midsole, that's kind of what you get here. With the Brooks Ghost Max, I would say you're not getting that plush midsole foam like you are on the Gel-Nimbus 25, but I do think the rocker that you're getting does make it a little bit more memorable in terms of kind of really logging that mileage and making it feel a little bit smoother. They're both very stable shoes as well. I would say the Brooks Ghost Max has got a nicer outsole. I just wish if there was a nicer foam or a foam a little bit similar to what we got on the Gel-Nimbus 25, I think I would be saying the Brooks Ghost Max, and also it's a cheaper shoe as well. But ultimately, in terms of the types of runs I'd be grabbing this shoe for, it would be the same types of runs, those slow, easy runs. And ultimately, just because of what I feel about the upper on the Gel-Nimbus 25 and having a slightly softer midsole foam as well too, I would be going for this. But this is a very good shoe for similar types of runs. And as I said, it does give you a touch more versatility. I just wish it had something a little bit more going for it in terms of the midsole foam, because I think the Brooks Ghost Max has something here. I definitely think this is going to get a better shoe the next generation. But for me, if it was my pick, I'd be going for the Asics Gel-Nimbus 25.
Okay, my verdict on these two shoes is definitely going to be the Asics Gel-Nimbus 25. It's just a really comfortable, soft, enjoyable max cushion shoe, which is what you want, I think, or what most people would probably want from a max cushion shoe. It's really plush in the upper. You can just cruise really nice, easy runs, long runs, recovery runs. It's just great. It's just really enjoyable. It's just a nice shoe to wear. It's just a great shoe if you want to tick off those miles in comfort. Ghost Max is not a bad shoe. I just don't feel like that cushioning really does a lot. I don't think there's a reason for it to have more cushioning in, because it doesn't really make a difference to the previous version. But it is a solid shoe. It feels a lot more stable for me than a lot of max cushion shoes. It's definitely a little bit more stable than the Gel-Nimbus 25, which isn't unstable. It's just this is a noticeably stable shoe. So if you're looking for a max cushion shoe and you want something that's a little bit firmer, maybe for heavier runners, then it might have more benefits than it has for me. But I think I'd always go for the Asics Gel-Nimbus 25, just because it's just way more comfortable and a little bit softer.
Now for my verdict, I'm going to keep things nice and simple. Two capable shoes that share a lot of similarities. Not much to choose on comfort, not much to choose on fit, not much to choose on stability or durability, almost identical on weight, but with quite a big price difference. £35 more expensive than Nimbus are in the UK, at least $10 in the US. Now the major difference other than the price for me is the ride. The Ghost Max are more immediate, they're more responsive. I'd say they're the equal to the Nimbus for cushioned easy runs, but they're much better at faster paces. Not your all-out pace, but getting faster. And because of that slightly firmer, snappier response, I think Brooks has made a Nimbus, but made it more versatile and marginally better. Essentially, I think Brooks has out-Nimbus the Nimbus, and it would be the Ghost Max that I would choose out of these two shoes.
That's our comparison of the Asics Gel-Nimbus 25 and the Brooks Ghost Max. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Please do like and subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.